We have to talk about acceleration. We all want to accelerate us towards our goals, but sometimes we create our own impediments that keep us from getting there. Most often it's kind of how we think about things. It's the psychology of what we have currently against us that isn't necessarily the enemy, but in some way we create the speed bump for ourselves. And so I often talk about the creative process in the coaching that I do. After 25 years, one of the best ways I can help leaders get where they want to go faster with greater impact is to set up the right structures that put them in positions to create their goals more easily and more effortlessly. And that's not having anything to do with the way that they think positive about things. In fact, the more that they're positive about what they think, the less of a creator they become. Because we lie to ourselves about reality. And I think we do this because either we don't know a better way or our nervous systems just can't take the directness of reality, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But when we do, we awaken a resourcefulness in ourselves to be more effective, to come up with new responses that position us to go where we're trying to go. So one of the models that I often work with is called structural tension. And this is the relationship between vision and current reality. So let's say you're trying to create a different appearance and you're in the process of creating a different body. And so one of the metrics is you set a goal for creating, let's say as a male, you're getting to a 180-pound body and currently you're at 220. And that you want to be there and you've made up your mind to be there within, let's say, 1 year. And so you're essentially going to have lost over that year 40 pounds, 40 body pounds, and keep off the weight. So you make the effort, you diet, you go after it, you change your eating habits, you get rid of all the foods that you shouldn't eat, and you lose the weight. And then over time, as things progress, you backslide. And that you begin to put on more and more pounds. Why? Because as you got yourself starving, as you went on your diet, you also oscillated in the sense that you made yourself more hungry. And how do we get that goal managed? Well, we eat more. So we eat less, we lose weight, and then we get more hungry and we eat more, which motivates us to eat less. And we have this yo-yo effect that's going on, which we call an oscillating pattern. And it's like a rocking chair where we go one way. By eating less, we get more hungry, so we eat more. And we bounce back and forth and back and forth. And as we bounce back and forth, the more we go one way, the more we go another way. And it leads to a path of least resistance that is away from what we want. Now, one of the principles in this is that tension is the functional unit of structure. And I don't mean tension in the form of stress or worry or anxiety. I mean tension in so far that you have a bow and you're an archer and you stretch the 2 points apart, and that difference between the points is what causes tension to seek resolution. And therefore the propulsion of the arrow is guided by and is accurately pointed by that tension. And the space between the 2 points is actually what increases the velocity of the arrow. And so too in our lives, that the difference between what we have and what we want also propels the tempo of that path of least resistance. In other words, the flame between the logs burns brighter because the logs are farther apart. But no, wait a minute. No, when I'm further apart from where I am, from where I currently see myself and where I am currently, when my vision and my current reality are further apart, JD, what am I going to do about that difference? And see, oftentimes we haven't learned how to manage that kind of difference, because it takes intestinal fortitude to do so. And so over periods of time, as we're going through the creative process, a lot of the decisions we make are going to lead to results we don't want. It's going to lead to mistakes. And so we bump off that, and then we go the other way, and then we try it this way, and then we try it that way, and we try it this way. Certainly experimentation is part of what we learn in creating anything. But the beginning of the process is a willful exploration. It is a fast feedback cycle of making mistakes, but in order for us to do that, we have to look at it like the lanes of a bowling alley. We have bumpers that go along that either guide the ball down to a strike or don't. And the neat thing about bumpers is that in this sense, as we get closer to the end result, as we get closer to the goal, hopefully those bumpers have become closer together. Why? Because there's less variation in the learning process. When we started, it was like a zigzag. Doink, 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 doink. And then it goes to doink, 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 and it goes more in a straight line. Because we understand that we're not going to throw a gutter ball because we've learned, we've developed a capability by that learning, and we've assimilated as we've gone along. And so there's an exploration process that happens intensively at the beginning of creating anything, especially when we start separate from what we know. So we have to throw out all that conventional wisdom. And this isn't easy because one of the cravings we have at the beginning of the creative process is we have to find the right way. And so we don't go through the process of figuring it out, learning, because we want to find what works. Our human species craves that. We want to find the right answers. There must be a right answer out there, therefore I'll go find it. And what that is it's a way to compensate for this bouncing effect. So rather than bump, 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 bump and go in zigzag and bounce off one wall and another wall like a bouncer in a maze, we try to lessen that by taking a less courageous approach. And we in some way think that, well, if someone else has got it out there, someone else has got it, I'm not going to reinvent the wheel. So we go into podcast saturation. Yeah, we get hooked into the adventures of information. And there must be a tool or a technique or someone has got a cheat code or someone's got a quick fix and we're going to find that quick fix. And most often, that's the fallacy, is that convention is not suited to the goal that we want to create. And the reason why is that it's about heuristics. Heuristics are the learned frameworks, techniques, to learn what works on behalf of pursuing an outcome that we don't know how to create. Heuristics aren't things that we preconceived or learned before that. So, for example, if I'm learning to lose weight or learning to ride the bike or learning to sailboard, the heuristics are the very direct acquisitions that I learn in my capabilities and my capacities to create that experience, to create the level of competency that I want to get to. If I'm learning a language, I'm going to zigzag a lot. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes. And when I do, I eliminate that variation by assimilation. And in that process, there is emotional conflict. Why? Because it's not cool when you have a setback. It sucks when you're frustrated, when you say the wrong thing, or someone laughs and says, I don't understand you. Or you tried to call a cab and you didn't get it right. Or you said the wrong thing at the restaurant. Or you offended someone because you didn't understand the words that you were trying to say. You're going to fail forward fast. Eat failure flakes for breakfast. What's the bumper? Well, we're going to throw a gutter ball if we use our identity. If we marry our identity to the current reality, we're going to take everything personal. And that is not cool in the creative process, because if you take everything personal, then everything defines you as a person, and in reality, that's not so. But in some way, we get really tentative and hesitant because we take everything as if it defines us as a person. Maybe we have an underlying belief that we are not worthy, so we better deserve what we desire. So we take on all the extra things and we make things hard and we slay the dragon to justify that we have earned what we expect or want. Or we have all these concepts in our mind about our expectations and the way things are supposed to go. And when they don't go that way, of course, they most often don't, because that's the learning process of exploration in the creative process. So they don't, and yet we break the rules that we impose on it, because essentially expectations are premeditated disappointments. So when things don't go compatibly to what we expect, we get frustrated. And that emotional conflict causes us to turn towards that point of reference. And now we're emotionally referenced, meaning we're going to eliminate the pain. We're going to ameliorate this bad feeling. I've got to deal with my moods. Tell that to a mother that's raising children. You need to have a positive attitude. They'll slap you. Why? Because it's not something that you need to have. You can raise children without having a positive attitude. In fact, you can't. We're moody species, right? We're lazy. That's how we are, but that's our biology. But you know what? It's not about attitude. If we go to work on ourselves and we're so busy working on ourselves that we lose track of our creative process, you can become effective at anything without focusing on yourself. Creating is not self-improvement. We're not trying to solve the problem of ourselves or get over ourselves or fix ourselves or improve what's wrong with us. You'll have a lot of, strong weaknesses if that's the case. And why miss out on the glory? You could focus more on your strengths. Why don't we remember that bad things aren't happening? It's okay to report that to yourself. That's also a side of reality and teaching yourself the truth. Bad things aren't happening. That's a bumper as well. And there are certain decisions that you will make that are non-negotiable, meaning you have things that you absolutely will not agree to and you will not do. And that's okay because you know what matters to you. It's not about having more. It's not about having less. It's about having what you want. You want what you want. So don't lower that into why things are difficult. The difficulty level isn't the organizing framework of creating anything. It's hard, it's not hard. It's hard, it's not hard. So be it. Want what you want. That's the game. But you play it, and as you put these bumpers up, later on, all the zigzagging will turn into a more straight line because your confidence will come from the capacity building of learning how to cook what you're after. You set out to create a chocolate cake. At first, you make a lot of mistakes. You reduce those mistakes as you go along. It's an iterative process. And you reduce those zigzag lines. Why? Because later downstream you will become more fit and capable. You have to learn by action. You don't learn by perfection, sitting back going, well, I'll get it right the first time. You won't. You will get it wrong, but you don't take offense to it. So you make adjustments. You get back up quickly. Now, let's say you have a deadline or a time on it. Well, then you got to be able to get through this exploration process relatively quickly. You got to do it efficiently. So you have to fail faster, which is great, because knowing later on that as you get it along, you'll be able to exploit those things that work, the heuristics that you learn that will work on behalf of that. So you got to hang out in this sort of kairos space where you're in the place of trials and errors and serendipity, and certain things are given to you and it's not all fixed. And then as you go along, it becomes more fixed because you can arrange things reliably based on information that you didn't have before. You gain certainty by starting from uncertainty. You gain visibility and vision by starting from volatility. You gain understanding by starting with complexity. You gain clarity by starting with the not know. It's true. Uncertainty yields certainty. But we got to start off oftentimes on projects where we're uncertain. We've got to explore before we exploit. And we've got to do it quick enough to be able to get the information faster. That's the learner rather than the performer. That's what we do when we're creating, is we're learning. So out of these ideas, what can you do? What can you do right away? What's practical that you can get out of all this stuff? Well, identify what you want. Want what you want. Stop the shoulds, woulds, and ought tos. It's not about what should matter. It's about what does matter. So make up your mind. What do you really want? Be true to yourself. Second is teach yourself reality. What do you actually have now? What's your starting point? What's your floor compared to the ceiling? Can you move the floor up? Yes, you can, because you do that by taking action on behalf of what you're trying to create. That is what learning is. We learn by following a track. We follow the track toward what we want. And we have to look forward to the capabilities and the confidence that will come through the action taking that we make. The faster we make mistakes, the better we can learn. We can celebrate new information and apply it. It's in the KISS. The keeps, the improves, the starts, the stops. What are you keeping? What are you improving? What are you starting? What are you stopping? All informed by the outcome that you're creating. It's not rewards. It's not whether it satisfies you. Good days, bad days will be real. They will be both. You will appreciate one when you have the other. You've got to have bad days to have good days. And you'll have a lot more unfulfilling days than you will having fulfilling in creating. Don't focus on your levels of fulfillment. It's a trap. Focus on the outcome. And so you don't lower or compromise the vision. You keep steady to it. You continue to raise the floor. You continue to bring it towards it. Bring it towards the ceiling. But know where you really are. Tell yourself the truth. Regulate that inner dialogue. It's not about your internal beliefs. This has nothing to do with beliefs. You don't need to believe anything. It's just about accurate thinking. So use it. And remember, it's practice, 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 practice. That what you practice, you get good at. You practice creating anything. You can start with some small things you want to create. Not because it's being realistic, but it's because you're getting practice on stuff for you to explore at a lesser risk so that you can exploit the things that you can reliably do. So there you go. Start creating today. What do you want to create? What do you want to create right now? What do you want to create in the domains in which you care about them? What do you want to create in your relationships, your health, your business? What do you want to create in your career? Everything's up for grabs. Everything is up for grabs for you to rethink it. If you could start over again in your life, what would you do? What would be the most ideal day that you would want? That tells you a lot about you. What is indispensable to your happiness? Because you have a hierarchy of importance in that wanting process. What is most important to you? If you get that into your life now, you'll have the energy for the rest. Make that indispensable to you. That means you would be truly unhappy without whatever that is. You must do it. There are projects and things that you must do. There are no decisions to make. And you can decide or not decide, of course, but there are things that are obvious to you, that matter to you, that you can bring into reality. Creating starts with love. We love the outcome before we create it. And we shape it in our mind before we bring it into reality. And so that being said, we're not eliminating anything. We're remembering what not to do, but we're not eliminating something. That's elimination. Creation is generative. We're bringing something into being. And we're bringing our capacity toward the process of creating it. How do we learn how to do it? We start creating it. You don't go to school. We don't go to education in schools because for that means that everything we're going to learn is to prevent us from having an unfortunate circumstance. You need to learn this because. You'll need to learn this because. Well, who said so? That's not a rebellious comment. It's worth scrutinizing because what is the action that we're taking towards? What are we learning on behalf of? What, because someone prescribed it? They said it's normal? Because if you learn this, you'll be a better person? Nope. We're not defined by what we know. We're not defined by anything. Nothing defines us at all, unless we think it does. But we can go about our lives creating things that matter to us. And we should, because creating is a way of life. And you get more involved in your life when you do, and you're moving towards something. Your mind has good instructions. And when you have a difference between what you have and what you want, it's not that something's missing. It's actually something is ready to happen. It focuses the mind. It gives you good instructions. And if my mind didn't have good instructions, I'd be like a dog. I would chase trucks all day and poop all over the house. No. It's about creating. And that's what I want to turn you on to, is that the creative process is the foundation of great things. It is the greatest source of achievement of civilization. And how we go about creating is a process. We can master it. We can develop a reliable process for creating anything we set our minds and hearts to. So it's about creating. And that's what I want to get to you, is that you're going to explore things in the creative process. Then you're going to learn the heuristics of what it shows to you, reveals to you, and that as you repeat that process of modification, making strategic choices, you get better and better as you move where your current reality, as your floor is, to the ceiling that you're moving up toward. That's how you climb a mountain, and that's how you learn how to climb it at the same time. We build the plane and we fly it all at once. So we don't need to start with what we know, we start with what we don't know. Because otherwise it wouldn't be creating, it would be called repeating. That's right. So let's begin creating. That's it. Glad you listened to me. Thank you very much.